It is my pleasure to introduce the Dean of the Tippie College of Business and Professor of Marketing, Dr. Sarah Fisher Gardiel.
Thank you, Professor Gleason. Good afternoon. On behalf of the Tippie College of Business and the University of Iowa, I want to welcome all of you. Students and their families, the completion of their undergraduate education. Today, many emotions fill this auditorium. For our graduates, these emotions range probably from excitement for the future, anticipation, celebration, and uncertainty and apprehension about the future. For parents and spouses, the range of emotion probably includes pride, certainty, and in some cases, I suspect, a profound sense of financial relief. Before proceeding further, I would like to introduce the faculty and invited guests who are joining us today to honor the graduates as they earn their degrees. Please stand when I introduce you. We'll start on my right. Kevin Donato, Lecturer and Director of Accounting, Undergraduate Program. Jay Christensen Zielinski, Professor of Management and Organizations. Larry Cook, Lecturer, Undergraduate Program in Finance. George Hiller, a distinguished alum, our speaker today, and President and CEO of Hiller and Associates. Christy Gleason, Professor of Accounting and Henry B. Tippie Research Fellow. Bruce Harold, President of the University of Iowa. Nancy Betger, Board of Regents. Ken Brown, Professor and Associate Dean of Management and Organizations and the undergraduate programs. Todd Hogue, Professor of Instruction and Director of Undergraduate Studies in Finance. Kevin Felker, Lecturer and Undergraduate Program in Management Science. And Tom Walsh, Associate Professor of Practice and Director of Undergraduate Studies in Marketing. The faculty serving as marshals today from our college include Jennifer Furman, Professor of Instruction and Director of Undergraduate Studies in Economics, and Bob Walker, Lecturer and John Papajohn Entrepreneurship Center. Thank you all for joining us today. I would also like to thank and recognize the members of the Iowa Brass Quintet. On trumpets, Dr. Amy Schendel and Mr. Evan Fowler. On horn, Mr. Kamsum Duke, oh my goodness. This is one of those I should have looked at ahead of time. Delokanarum. On trombone, Mr. Caleb Lambert, and on tuba, Professor John Manning. All of today's proceedings will be interpreted by Scotty Van Eislingham. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker, George Hiller, President and CEO of Hiller and Associates. In 1980, which probably doesn't seem very long ago to him, George Hiller was in the place that you are today, graduates. He was graduating from the University of Iowa with his BBA in marketing. After earning an Iowa MBA in 1982, George began his professional career in a fast-track management program at Procter & Gamble. Since then, he has enjoyed a 36-year track record of success in the areas of strategic sales, marketing, and management. His career includes serving in sales and marketing roles for a fluid ink packaging company, a vehicular salvage company, and a domestic spice company. He spent more than 15 years as an executive for PepsiCo, which included responsibility for developing new business in 20 states and in Canada. Today, you will learn why he founded Hiller and Associates, the largest North American beverage consulting company. The company works with clients ranging from some of the largest food service companies, such as Jimmy John's, Outback Steakhouse, Cheesecake Factory, and White Castle, to emerging chains like the Shake Shack. He has successfully negotiated contracts in excess of $3.5 billion in total value. I'm sure that you will enjoy his story and his advice. Please join me in welcoming a member of one of our college advisory council, George Hiller.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I can honestly say it's great to be a Hawkeye, isn't it? What a great day today. Dean Gardial, thank you for inviting me to speak today. It is truly, truly an honor. President Harold, Tippie faculty and staff, family, friends, welcome to a celebration of accomplishment. And to the December 2018 Tippie College of Business graduating class, congratulations, what an accomplishment. So Dean Gardial asked me to share with you some professional and personal thoughts learned over 35 plus years, and it doesn't seem that long. I'm going to share with you some thoughts and considerations. And before I do that, I do want to go ahead and just give you a little more about my professional background, because I believe it speaks to in context to what I'm going to share with you. And I'm going to go ahead and complete my speech as I'm starting it off today. Never, never in my wildest dreams did I ever imagine that I'd be making a commencement speech at the University of Iowa. So my professional background, as Dean Gardial said, I started with Procter & Gamble, was there 2 years, and I'll be very honest with you. Great company, the retail side of the business, I was bored out of my mind. I then got recruited to Pepsi USA, and it was the exact opposite of my P&G experience. I loved it. The industry, the company culture, and you probably have heard about this before, the Cola Wars. The Cola Wars are alive and well, and if you're a competitor, they are a blast to be a part of. Absolutely loved it. However, through a chance meeting at an airport, I was recruited over to the largest vehicular salvage company in the United States. I'm going from sugar water to vehicular salvage. Not exactly the most normal career path, but they brought me in as an equity partner, basically developed their sales and marketing arm. 5 years later, sold the company, cashed out, moved back to Des Moines. Then became an independent contractor with a fluid ink company, and then also with a spice company, but I was bored again. And I got the phone call from Pepsi USA saying, hey, would you be interested in coming back? I said yes. It was, I didn't know it at that time, probably the best phone call I ever got, both professionally and personally, and I found my passion. I was in charge of new business for much of the country and into Canada, and absolutely loved it. However, 9 years later, the company decided that they were going to go through a restructuring initiative, and they said, we want the company to look more like America looks today. Great. I was 48 years old. I was living in Des Moines. I wasn't going to move to New York. And I also felt like one of the real reasons why, they didn't want executives getting to 50, let alone 55. Lump sum pension, and also the ability to have health care for life for you and your spouse. So with that, whatever reason it was, it didn't matter. 18 months after being in New York and getting an award from the chairman of PepsiCo, I was part of 450 executives of my restructuring class of 2006. Imagine how I felt. I just was in New York for stellar performance. The message being told, like it or not, I wasn't good enough anymore. And I had to go home and tell my wife. And I also had a daughter 9 months going to college and twins 2 years later going to college. Well, I go home, she's crying, and I'm smiling. And she's looking at me like, what is wrong with you? Well, to me, why was I smiling? I'm a firm believer when one door closes, another opens. I always felt there was also the opportunity to take my knowledge that I had from PepsiCo and take it on the other side. And I am so thankful for being restructured out, because if they didn't do that, I'm not sure I would have had the impetus to go out on my own. So thus the birth of Hiller and Associates. Lemons, which was Pepsi, turned into Lemonade, which was Hiller and Associates. And I look back at that not as one of the worst days of my professional life, one of the best. And today, I'm now on the other side negotiating against Pepsi and Coke and Pepper, and I got to tell you, I really like it, especially when I'm negotiating against Pepsi, for whatever reason. And I'm very proud to say, 12 years, we are not only the largest North American beverage consulting company, we are now the largest beverage consulting company in the world, and I'm thrilled about that. Thank you. So that being said, I have 11 thought provokers for you. And I would just say this, if even one of them, if even one hits home and you guys can find value to it, then I'm going to say the speech has been successful. Point number one, always believe in yourself when others don't. If you can't believe in yourselves, then why should others? Secondly, project strength, but also recognize the importance of balancing this with being humble, strong communication skills, and working with others efficiently and effectively. Point number three, deal and embrace with failure and fear head on. You're all going to face it. We have, we will, we continue. To me, failure is not about making mistakes. It's about not learning from those mistakes and then also being afraid to take calculated risks going forward. As for fear, I wake up every morning knowing if I don't produce, we've got problems. I believe that if channeled correctly, fear is the great equalizer of complacency. Fourth point, and I'm going to say practice FILO. This is not a cost accounting acronym. It stands for first in and last out. At large meetings, at conferences, at trade shows, where it makes sense, be the first to arrive, be the last to leave. Believe me when I say people notice it. Number 5, network, network, network. You already know that, but there's a little caveat to this. Be both a giver and a taker. Network with people, ask for help, but also be willing to give people help too. Again, just don't be a taker, be a giver. 6, both professionally and personally, find mentors. I can't emphasize the importance of this enough. As I look back, this was probably my biggest professional regret. I didn't do a good enough job of this. Number 7, be memorable. And here's some ways you can do this. First of all, at meetings, at conferences, where it's appropriate, always send a follow-up email or note. I was at a conference recently where I saw my clients, both existing and potential. It took me close to a week to do it, but I sent out those emails. People noticed that. With follow-up emails, where appropriate, put in there, if I don't hear from you by such and such a date, I will call you or email you on Wednesday, March 15th. When you say you're going to do something, do it. Put it down there that you're going to do it and take control of it. And tying in with that, and believe me, this makes sense too, when you say you're going to call someone at 9 o'clock, call them at 9 o'clock. Start dialing at 8:59 so it gets there. Not 9:01, 9:02. People do notice. You're sending a clear message, you're a professional, and you value them. Last thing is, and it'd be interesting, I don't know how many of you have personalized stationery cards, but send a handwritten note where appropriate. Believe it or not, it makes sense. People notice that. It's rarely done, but imagine when you get a handwritten note. That really matters to you. It's the ultimate form of respect. Number 8, where appropriate. If something's important to you, don't be afraid to communicate it, and then be prepared to clearly and succinctly articulate why it's important to you. In too many instances today, asking for the business has become a lost art. Don't be afraid to do that. Number 9, for many, learn how to sell successfully and effectively. It's a skill that can and will be transferred and useful through life. Number 10, this hits home to me. If you think you're irreplaceable in a company, think again. And then finally, consider the following, and it applies to both business and personal. Things are never as great as you think they are, and they're never as bad as you think they are. Celebrate the good and move on. Learn from the bad and then put it behind you. But as a business owner, father, husband, and grandfather, I can speak firsthand to the importance of maintaining emotional balance. So, as I said, I was going to finish my speech the way I started. Never, never, never in my wildest dreams did I ever imagine I would be asked to speak at a commencement for the College of Business at my alma mater. However, if you work hard, if you work smart, if you live life with passion, and if you live life with integrity, I'm confident that all of you can and will realize your wildest dreams. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, George, for your inspiring remarks. I imagine that there's a lot of people who would love to mentor you, and I imagine you're a pretty good mentor too, so those words were fantastic. It's my pleasure now to introduce today's guest speaker, Victoria Vaughn. Victoria Vaughn is from Iowa City, Iowa, and is graduating today with a BBA in marketing and a BA in journalism and mass communication. During her time at Tippie, Victoria was part of organizations like Women in Business and the Fashion Marketing Club. She wrote for the Daily Iowan and assisted in several marketing campaigns across campus. In her free time, she was active in the arts, performing in spaces such as the Englert and Riverside Theater. After graduation, Victoria will continue working for Not Suspicious Media, creating podcasts and serving as the head of marketing.
Thank you, Dean Brown, for those kind words, and good afternoon. To my fellow graduates, esteemed faculty, family, and friends, welcome to the day we've all been looking forward to for the past 48 months, or in my case, as a super senior, 76 months. It has certainly been a long, uncertain road, but pause for a moment to take it in. Because many people don't have the privilege to see this day. We are the few and fortunate. In writing this speech, I struggled to find what would be most meaningful. I wanted to do what others had done before me, impart knowledge and inspire my fellow graduates. I even gave thought to the possibility that I could crack a few jokes, but soon realized that I'm not that funny. Instead, I decided to share how Tippie has provided me, and actually really most of us, with a second family. In order to tell that story, I have to take you back to the beginning of my college journey. I'm an Iowa City native, which means the University of Iowa was part of my life since the day I was born. I've been witness to countless homecoming parades, been stuck in game day traffic, and attended university-sponsored events. So when I was deciding on college, one of my goals was to avoid going to the University of Iowa. I knew Iowa was a good school, but it wasn't special or unique for me. I wanted something different. I wanted to get out of town. However, my parents weren't equipped to help me pay for college. My only hope was a scholarship. Luther College answered that need, but the experience there wasn't what I expected. I often felt lonely, disconnected, and bogged down by financial stress. It wasn't long before I realized that I couldn't stay. I applied to Iowa as a transfer student, paying the application fee with the little money I had. Now, I know what you must be thinking. Why return to a community I was so desperate to leave? The simple answer, it made financial sense. But part of me also knew that it was a safe, familiar choice, making it an easy place to start over. So I applied, and with that, the path that led me to this stage on this day was set in motion. Like many of my classmates, my journey to and through Tippie has been joyful, surprising, and at times excruciating. For one, I didn't start at Iowa with the expectation that I was going to business school. I loved writing and had my sights set on journalism. Then, I saw Nancy Abram give a marketing lecture. Ask any Tippie student about her, and they will say she's compelling and inspiring to listen to. Her lecture sparked my interest in business. And despite the fact that I was already playing catch-up as a transfer student and loathed the idea of doing more math, I said to myself, what's one more degree? I make it sound as if it were a simple decision, but the reality is that it was a serious undertaking for me. Sure, on paper and in person, I am an accomplished student. Like many of my classmates, I made the grades and found a way to be a part of student organizations like Women in Business. And if you were to ask people what I'm like, they would say I'm bubbly, driven, and sing a little too much. But even the most accomplished students suffer through hardship, which can hinder the realization of a goal. I've never advertised how hard it was for me to stay at Tippie, as I'm sure is true for some of the graduates who sit on this stage today. Looking at me, you would never know that I had no money during my first semester at Iowa. I was on food stamps and living paycheck to paycheck. You would never realize I worked 3 jobs and was enrolled school full-time. I used to ride a bike to campus, even in winter, until it was stolen. You would never know that sometimes the only meal I ate was breakfast. You would never know that I thought this day would never come. It would be easy for me to say that I did it on my own, but that wouldn't be the whole story. There were people who put a roof over my head when I didn't have one. There were friends who gave me rides to and from school. And then there was Tippie. I was supported since the day I walked in. Here, faculty and staff go above and beyond to make students feel cared for. For example, if you were lucky enough to take marketing management with Tom Walsh, he made sure to bring breakfast bars for everyone to each class. Also, have any of my fellow graduates noticed that despite how many times our academic advisor changed, the next one always knew every detail of every meeting we ever had? While these actions may not seem extraordinary, they are the moments that make Tippie impactful. Any college can educate, advise, and provide social outlets, but it takes a great one to make a student feel like they are part of a family. Here, hallways are decorated with pictures of Tippie graduates and their endeavors. Here, faculty know if you have siblings or come from a small town. Here, the sense of family propels students into success. And it's because of the Tippie family that I walk away with not 1, but 2 degrees today. Like my classmates, I am saddened my time here has ended. Tippie has been like a second home, a place to safely explore identities and dreams. And as we all know, leaving any home is difficult. Part of that difficulty is dealing with change in ourselves and in our priorities. But the amazing thing about college is that it allows us to grow and measure that growth on an individual level. It's a chance to evaluate who you were, who you are, and who you can someday be. So let's embrace the next journey and the challenges that may follow, even if that means changing course, as I did so many months ago. And let us never forget that if we're feeling a little lost, we can always come back home. Congratulations, Tippie graduates, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. At this time, we would like to recognize those students graduating with honors and academic distinction. The Tippie College of Business awards degrees with highest distinction to students in the highest 2% of the graduating class, with high distinction to students in the next highest 3%, and with distinction to students in the next highest 5%. Distinction is designated by gold stars worn on the left sleeve. 3 stars indicate graduation with highest distinction, 2 with high distinction, and 1 with distinction. As I call each group of students, please rise to be recognized. Audience, I ask that you hold your applause until all the students graduating with distinction have been recognized. Will those graduating with highest distinction please stand? Will those graduating with high distinction please stand? Will those graduating with distinction please stand? Please join me in congratulating these students. They will also be recognized individually during the presentation of the graduates. Membership in Beta Gamma Sigma is the highest recognition a business student can earn. To be eligible for membership, students' individual academic ranking must place them in the upper 10% of the junior class or in the upper 10% of the senior class. Students graduating as members of Beta Gamma Sigma wear royal blue and gold cordons draped over their shoulders. Would the students graduating as members of Beta Gamma Sigma please stand? Congratulations. We would also like to recognize the students who are graduating in the Tippie College of Business Honors Program. This program provides an opportunity for outstanding students to do independent research in business and to work closely with one or more faculty members. Each of the students graduating with honors has maintained a 3.5 grade point average and written a thesis relevant to their academic interest or major. Students graduating with honors wear white cordons draped over their shoulders and will be recognized during the presentation of the graduates.
Will the candidates for the degree Bachelor of Business Administration please rise? President Harold. These candidates have completed the requirements of the degree Bachelor of Business Administration and are recommended to you by the faculty of the Tippie College of Business for the conferring of this degree.
On recommendation of the faculty of the Tippie College of Business and by the authority vested in me by the Board of Regents, State of Iowa, I confer on each of you the degree Bachelor of Business Administration as qualified and designated. Congratulations.
Will the graduates please be seated? Dr. Ken Brown, Associate Dean of the Undergraduate Program and Professor of Management and Organizations, will now recognize the graduates individually. Will the marshals please begin leading the graduates forward to be recognized?
As I read, please know that if I mispronounce your name, you do still graduate. James Goss. Adam Kirky with distinction. Casey Pence. Gong Chen. Shengshao Zhang. Bingzhen Wang. Janbin Lao. Chuanshu Ao. Alicia Tooch. Emily Oldinger. Jayme Bigger. Christian David Castaño Bonillo. Emily Ayala. Alaina Gerbers. Haley Stitz. Troy Kanzen. Ashley Fitzpatrick. Victoria Lynn Vaughn. Sultana Arroyo. Casa Tooley. Hamdan Alababi. Mercy Kimmelin. Hannah Stewart with highest distinction. Stephanie Hutchins. Alexandra Fuller. Sammy Wizerick. Emily Howard. Lauren Jimerson with distinction. Jayme Kelly with distinction. Nicole Petersen. Brianna Voss. Anna Schuhart. Michael Chizik with high distinction. Austin Rurup with distinction. Timothy Robert Franken. Cade Cooper. Andrew Paul. Ben Salvador. Jake Payton. Nathan Luna, Mitchell Smith, Christopher Lapham, Cassidy Miller, Rachel Walter, Stephanie Moore, Madison Meeker, Drew Minder, Cole McSpadden, Collin Platts, Eric Frank Miller, Timothy Cameron Odding, Andrew Strait, Brian Scott Cook, John McLaughlin, Chip Craven, Catherine Moline, Brian Griffith, Kevin Priest, Ravi Bhatt, Lin Lee, Hong Tao Sun, Stephanie Jonina, Lee Yu Tu, Ryan Schwartzendruber, Grant Troyer, Thomas Magard, Jared Kowalski with honors in finance. John McDonough, Jihoon Park, Ikun Jang, Wei-Jing Yan with distinction, Amy Blue, Joseph Feisner, Anchi Guo, Andy Blackford, Edward Cunningham, Tim Cook, Drew Rasmussen, Peter Larson, Chase Woodall, Kameron Kopaska, Ian Carr, Nicholas Robinson with distinction, Nicholas Aducci, Christina Wallen with high distinction, Maddison Lange, Cheyenne Pratt with university honors, Julianna Feracota with honors in accounting, with honors in dance, and with distinction. Austin Hackford, Colton Feldmann, Yusok Choi, Songkoo Park, Taekwon Jeong, Hyungju Nam, Wongjin Choi, Songchul Park, Kyle Gerling, Judson Ott, Tyler Blackburn, Celine Huichin Lam, Zachary Grasso, Mac McKeever, Christian Hicks, Matthew Hansen, Brent Swanson, Adam Jensen, Chengyuan Xuan, Iran Zhong, Haiying Jung, Jingjing Li, Nicole Russo, Austin Hutchinson, Julon Nearing, Matthew Sorrell, Alexandra Conklin, Brandon Bruska, Anna Kuntz, Andrew Lund, Sydney Day, Jessica Roberto, Brian Schultz, Hailey McHugh, Jason Pierce, Daniel Heratia, Haley Moore, Maxwell Levisser, Wei-Ying Liu, Derek Bolser, Ted Keishi Zhao, Shuming Zhang, Mick Baker, James Murdy, Ming Wu, Daniel Poole, Ryan Curran, Ryan Michael Quayet, Shuao Liu, Xiao Liu, Xiao Ai Liu, Qiang Zhang, Shenhua Chen, Mingzhen Huang, with honors in finance. Bo Sun, Siru Liu, Dane Cronbaugh, Patrick Hagan. Jacob Sabatka with distinction. Ryan Schmidt with high distinction. Anthony Nelson with high distinction. Jordyn Steinkritz with honors in finance with highest distinction. Mason Beasley. Allison Ports. Michele Miller. James Fuse. Mary Martin. Megan McHale. Christina Dagrazikos. Molly Henkes. Blake Wilson. Yuhu Jian. Shi Zhang. Hongqing Wang. Ifan Zhang. Yuanhang Wang. Haoran Dong. Yue Lu. Yue Gong. Kun Yan. Chen Chen. Yacheng Huang. Jipan Li. Ren Xu. Yiyang Zhang. Zhu Lu. John Walk Rim. The turning of the tassel is the traditional gesture by which each student signifies passage from degree candidate to graduate. Will each of you now mark your status by turning the tassel of your cap from the right side to the left side? We could not be prouder. Congratulations to each and every one of you.
Graduates, today marks a personal milestone in your lives. Since you arrived on this campus, each of you has worked extremely hard toward the goal that you have reached today. Wearing your cap and gown, walking across this stage, and receiving your degree from the University of Iowa Tippie College. During this time, you faced many challenges, made discoveries about yourselves and others, and grew into leaders who will make a difference in our communities. For those of you in the audience, we feel your pride, but you also should be proud of all that you have done to help these graduates accomplish their goals. Your guidance, understanding, compassion, your faith in their abilities, and your love and support have been critical to their success. For what you have done to help these graduates, we thank you. I want to share a few thoughts. Graduates, I'm sure today your mind is flooded with images and memories and emotions, yet as you leave the Tippie College, you take with you powerful and positive attributes of a degree from the University of Iowa. First, you should feel pride. You have a degree from one of America's leading universities. Your degree has not been given without careful consideration, and as you enter the workplace, you will discover that what you have learned in Iowa rivals and may even exceed what others have learned elsewhere. Second, you take with you a strong work ethic. There is no substitute for hard work. Thomas Jefferson said, "I find that the harder I work, the more luck I seem to have." Tippie students are known for their readiness for hard work, their willingness to meet challenges, and their ability to overcome adversity. As Tippie students, you have demonstrated that work ethic daily. As graduates, you can take that work ethic with you as you enter this next stage of life. It will serve you very well. The third is compassion. While you are just now starting your careers, eventually you will reach its end. And when your professional journey is over, remember that what really matters are the relationships that you develop and nurture, the people you touch, and the lives that you impact. Likewise, be grateful and remember those who have helped you along the way, influenced you, and played a role in your success. We hope that in the years to come, you will fondly remember your time at the Tippie College and support this institution as generously as the alums who came before you. We are very proud of the Tippie class of 2018. In addition to being talented academically, you have demonstrated leadership, community spirit, a global sensibility, and you are indeed ready to be successful citizens of the world. As we conclude the ceremony today, I would like to ask that everyone please remain seated for the recessional as the platform party exits, followed by the graduates. Have a nice day.